I didn't become a health coach because I love green smoothies and kale. I became a health coach because I was that sick kid. I was that exhausted young mom living in a house full of mold. I was that woman sleeping 15 hours a day and barely able to get through my day. Hi, I'm Stephanie Martin, certified health coach, single mom of 3. And I just wanted to jump on here really quickly and just tell you, if you've ever felt like your body is just not responding, if there's mystery symptoms going on, if you've gone to the doctor and you have talked to them about, your feelings and your lab reports come back normal, then my story is indeed for you. I was, as a kid growing up, constantly sick. I had strep throat like 7 times in a year. I was constantly battling flus and colds and just everything sickness. I was raised on antibiotics, and I also didn't understand what, living with a chronic smoker would do to your health. But I experienced all those things. And then as I grew up and, got out on my own, I moved into an apartment that once again had mold in it, and I was getting sick like every 8 weeks and I couldn't figure it out. So I went to the doctor again, and he told me that I needed sinus surgery. And I was like, oh gosh, well, could I just, maybe eat a little better and do some supplements and sleep a little better? And would it go, things get better? And he was like, I'll see you in 8 weeks. And so I decided I wanted to try it my way. And so I did. And I didn't stop getting sick completely, but it did decrease a lot. And at that point, I was like, okay, so if you give your body what it needs, it can absolutely heal. God did design our bodies to heal. Our bodies are not broken, and they have not failed us. They just need what they need, to heal. And so fast forward about 10 years, and I was married. I had a couple of children. My first one had colic really bad, and she turned to find out she had a milk allergy. Removed the milk, and she got better. Then I had my second child. That's where the fun really began. She was, she was fine up until she was 6 months old, and she went in for her 6-month vaccine schedule. She had 2 super shots and then 2 other shots on top of that. So it was the equivalent of like 18 shots in one day. Bottom line was she had a severe reaction, broke out in hives, fever, cried 3 days, the whole bit. And thankfully, I was introduced to a wonderful holistic practitioner at the time. I had taken her to the ER prior to this, and they kept trying to work with us, and the poor child had like 4 antibiotics in 3 months, and she was only 6 months old, and no one could figure it out. They blew a bulb syringe in her ear and said, oh, she's got an ear infection. But, nothing said about what the root cause really was. And so whenever I took her to this other, practitioner who was also an MD, he started teaching me about how the body actually works and how the immune system really works, and, suppression of the immune system and what that can do and what can it lead to and all that. And so basically for the next 7 years, this man really took me under his wing. At the time, I had no idea that mold was really that big of a deal, as far as I didn't know what it could do to your health. It started training me. I started really learning a lot of things from him. But during that time, shortly after, about 2 years later, she and I started getting sick all the time. We shared the same room because at that time she was still being breastfed or what have you. Maybe not quite 2 years, but at any rate, we were getting sick constantly. And I had my house tested for mold, and, the house, the people who tested it recommended that we condemn the house and move out, but that wasn't an option. So I learned how to remediate mold in a holistic kind of way, and also how to detox both myself and my daughter from this horrible stuff that was constantly making us sick. And so that began a real journey that we went on over the next, I'm still on that journey. This all started probably early 2000s. And I really just started delving into how the body works. And with his help, I learned a lot over the years. And I guess in 2010, 29, somewhere in that neighborhood, or 2009, we had a situation, well, everybody did. The whole meltdown happened. And we had a job loss, and we lost our home within a very short period of time. And then my son was diagnosed with some weird debilitating virus where he couldn't walk or crawl for 2 weeks. It was a very stressful time. And 3 years later, I just crashed. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. I was sleeping 15 hours a day and had to take naps throughout the day. It was bad. I was barely able to function. And I think what it was is just the snowball of my entire life and the different health challenges that I had been exposed to over my whole life just finally caught up. And my body just, it was like, it'd been telling me for years, hey, you need to pay attention to this. But as a single mom, as my single moms probably know, we keep going and going and going and going and going until our body just stops us. And stop me, it did. And it was at that point I had to take a really long, hard look at, not only the physical aspects of healing, but the emotional aspects of healing. Now, 2 years later, I ended up with an abscessed tooth. And at the time I had no dental insurance. And so I talked to my dentist and said, okay, I need to know how we fix this. And she was like, well, it's going to be about $3,000 to do the whole thing. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, Lord, I need a plan B. And he gave me one. And so it was in that moment that I learned about how to heal your tooth naturally. And I had no idea you could even do that. I didn't even know that was a thing, but it is. And so I was able to heal that abscessed tooth naturally. And then in a couple of years later, my mom, who is really like my partner in crime, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And we had both done a lot of holistic healing and studying of the body and all those things. And so it was in that moment, if you will, we put her on a protocol, and she was able to go into remission, and she went into full remission for about 3 years. And then in 2021, late 2021, it came back with a vengeance, and she succumbed to the cancer in 2021. And it was at that moment that I realized how suppressing emotions throughout your life, how it really does, stay with your body. Your body doesn't really forget. And so it is really important to not only heal physically, but also emotionally as well. And so at that point, it was really kind of just part of the natural progression for me to become a health coach and open up my business, because at that time I had helped a lot of people, and I know that there's a lot out there about holistic health now. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And so when I was walking through all this stuff, I used to say, I was tried by fire, if you will, because I became a health coach before there was even such a thing as health coaching. And so I learned all of this stuff long before it had ever caught on. And a lot of the things and the modalities that I utilize, they're tried and true. They're things that I've been using since my kids were babies, and they're all grown now. And so naturally, in 2022, I opened up Revived and Restored Health. I became a practitioner with a wonderful supplement company that specializes in, getting a lot of the things flushed out and supporting your kidneys and your colon and all the wonderful things, your gut, and just really healing that so you're not taking supplements for the rest of your life type of thing. And I also got involved with some doctors and just learning more things about holistic health from them, and, just really how to heal the world, And so I became a certified health coach in 2024. And now I am really on a quest to help as many people as I can to truly heal, to deal with those root causes, to talk to those people who have gone to the doctor and the doctor said, oh, you're fine. There's nothing wrong, because I hear you. And so, like I said, I have gone from being that sick kid, from being that exhausted mom who was trying to raise kids in a moldy home, who was that exhausted, middle-aged woman sleeping 15 hours a day, barely able to get it through the day, to someone who has energy and who is vibrant. And I would love to share my story, my protocols, and all those wonderful things with you. So I would encourage you, if this story has resonated with you at all, please go to my website. It's at www.revivedandrestoredhealth.com and set up a complimentary discovery call. I'll get on the phone with you for about 20 minutes. We'll talk about what you're going through, and, see what we can do to help you and support you along your journey. I feel like if you're exhausted and you burn out and you feel like there's just nobody listening and they're not connecting the dots, know this: you are definitely not crazy. You know your body better than you think you do. And I would love to be a part of your journey and supporting you to your journey to healing. So I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you for listening to this, and be blessed.